advisors, I'm super excited to introduce you to Elements in Real Life. This is a series of videos we're putting together to help you better understand how to do financial planning with Elements. Each week, Elements advisors will take real client questions and show you how they use the vital signs to provide real advice. So check it out, and of course, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Jordan Haines here at Elements in Boise out of Boise, Idaho.
I'm Becky Walsh at Oak Maple Finance in Northern Vermont. So today we're going to answer a question using an Element scorecard. The question is, can we afford for my spouse to stop working? And it turns out that I got this question from Elements in Real Life a week ago. And then this week, I had the client meeting where the client said, I would like to be able to stop working. That's probably not feasible, but I'd love to know. I said, well, it turns out that we can answer that question really quickly and easily. So Jordan, I'm going to share my screen and show you how I'm thinking about this as an advisor, answering questions really quickly.
Becky, did it come up organically? Like, did they just bring it up, or was it as a result of seeing something that they decided, hey, by the way, this is something that we're really interested in doing?
It came up organically. This was our second or third meeting with this client. So we are still deep in discovery of what's going to make them happy in their lives. And so we are, so it rolled off their tongue. I did not prompt them anyway. It was, what would you love to do? What responsibilities would you love to give up? I follow the money quotient process for client discovery and goal setting. So it was in the course of that questioning that it came up. Jordan, are you able to see my screen now?
We have it.
Fantastic. So as you see here, the clients are 39 and 43, and they're living in Vermont on a current annual income of $224,000. Their spending, however, is a very small amount of that. So I was looking at their burn rate, and with a burn rate of 17%, I thought, well, this is actually quite an easy question to answer. Is yeah, probably, with that question mark at the end. But let's investigate it a little further. So at 39 and 43, they don't have kids. Their total term is 9. They're wanting to push that farther, push that towards that 25 to 30 range for financial independence. But they have really solid savings habits here with a savings rate of 13%. They've built up their liquid term. They have their retirement plans, and they have some amount of equity. So in Vermont, 166,000 in real estate equity is actually a nice amount. And their tax rate at 29%. So one of the ways that I looked at this question of, can I stop working? Can I afford to stop working? The one spouse who is interested in pulling back on some of her work responsibilities, she is the lower earning spouse. So we're looking to see, can they pull back a little bit on their income and still build a sustainable life? So looking at the rates row, let me just pull up that row there. Just doing really quick mental math, I see that does not add up to 100%.
No, yeah.
The way that they've been able to build their liquid term is because they are not spending all of their money.
They're just accumulating a lot of cash right now. It's not being saved. It's not being spent. So it's just kind of accumulating there, it looks like.
It is accumulating there. And we uncovered some of the reasons that's accumulating. There's some, interesting stories from their past, but also over the last couple of years, they have gotten their home to be perfect, exactly the way that they want it to be. And so they've been pouring money into that home. They're so satisfied with their home life. So the higher earning spouse, she is actually loves her job, loves doing what she's doing. She's working remotely for a company in a big city, and she's not interested in pulling back on her spending or on her job. So the question is, can the lower earning spouse reduce her income? And as a matter of fact, yeah, she can, because the money that was going into building their real estate equity, building their liquid terms, that's going to be, we'll shave a little bit of that off because she won't have as much income, but also their taxes are going to go down.
Yeah.
Their burn rate, that rate is going to go up because the denominator of income is going to go down, but we're still going to be well under 100% here. If we're very intentional about increasing the savings rate as the tax rate comes down, then we're going to be continuing to build the total term. Real estate term, I'll highlight the term row. Real estate term will be continuing to increase as they pay down their mortgage. They're just 2 years into a 30-year mortgage. Qualified term, the higher earning spouse is still going to be able to contribute to her 401k. And then liquid term, if they need to tap into it a little bit, they can. But overall, my gut sense here is, yeah, you probably can.
Yeah. There's kind of two places that I think you've addressed here that I think it's like when this question comes up, there's two places my eyes are drawn to. Number one is, how are we doing with this row that we're looking at right now, these term elements telling us how many years we can live off of certain things, like our net worth. So total term of 9.1 tells us this couple could live ideally for 9.1 years. We know that that's not the most accurate story in the world, but it gives us a starting point. And given their age, that's probably a good place to be. Obviously, they want to grow this. And so one of the questions that I came at this was, okay, if we reduce income, is that going to affect our ability to save? So then I think what happened then is our eyes are drawn to this cash flow row. And I think what you're getting at, Becky, is I would call it, we're trying to get to cash flow equilibrium, right? Income coming in, outflows going out. Right now we have a discrepancy, and I did the math here to say, like, okay, what's the exact dollar amount? And if you total this up, it's about 30 or 29% that's not accounted for here in this, which is about $65,000. Given that their taxes will go down because the other one's not making more income, that just means we have more money to do with. And so you could think about it that way, right? If we're going to reduce our income by a certain amount, does it roughly match up with that missing stuff that we're having? And I think what you're identifying is, yes, that's totally fine. On just a pure level, they can do that. And what that will essentially do then, though, is it's going to increase savings rate. It's going to increase burn rate. It's going to increase debt rate, and it will maybe level off their tax rate or bring it down a little bit. And frankly, that's a good place to be in, because when we look at people, they have a healthy savings rate. That's just going to go up when they do this. Yeah. Does it mean like on a pure dollar value, they're going to save more? No, but like all things considered, they have a really solid spending, right? They're doing great there. And so I think that was a really good way to look at that. Hey, let's start here at this bottom row and see, is this going to affect our ability to grow our net worth? No, then let's do it. Sounds great to me.
Yeah. And since I've only had a couple meetings with these clients, I don't know them well. I haven't fully, is that $65,000 annual spending? Is that really a solid number? Before I say, go ahead, give your 2 weeks notice, we're going to make sure that this data is really clean data. I start with what I call a pencil sketch of their financial picture. And so with this pencil sketch, mostly clean, but not totally ironed out yet. And I'm not going to say go ahead and stop working at age 39. But Jordan, something that I love is that you didn't know anything about this scenario 10 minutes ago. You had not heard what you didn't know which one of us was going to be presenting. You had not seen this scorecard, and you didn't know this client situation, but you knew what questions could be answered with the scorecard. And that's just so, anytime I see that happen, I'm just like, wow, this is such a cool tool.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this. I think it's a great example. And I think your approach here is, let's start here as this diagnostic back of napkin type of math to say, these are the areas we need to focus on. And you've already zeroed in on one really quickly, this spending. And I think most advisors, especially when we see this in Elements, we can come in with some level of skepticism to say, that's probably wrong. I mean, frankly, I don't know if I've ever seen a spending that's right. And so diving into that more to really understand that, I think is really valuable, because you're not going to go out right out of the gate and say, yeah, quit your job. Let's finish this.
Sure.
You're saying, I think on the surface, just like a doctor would come and say, I think it might be this, or I think it might be that. Let's run some more tests. You're saying, I think you'd probably be okay, but let's understand it a little bit more before I give you definitively, yeah, sure, you're doing fine. So I love that approach.
And
Go for it.
her actual question was, can I cut back to halftime? It was not, can I stop
Oh,
working?
even better. Yeah.
And so with that, can I cut back to halftime? The fact that you and I both are like, yeah, you probably can stop working. It's much easier to be like, yeah, you can cut back to halftime. Great. Can't wait to see what your life's going to be like.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
help you plan how you're going to fill that time.
Now, I think something that might be really interesting, and this is kind of outside of the question, but for those watching this, it might be an interesting opportunity, is you made a mention earlier that, okay, we have this discrepancy in the total amount of income that we have, right? And we're going to make the assumption that it's being accumulated in cash. And in fact, we have the liquid term score to kind of justify this. That's a pretty
Right.
high liquid term score. That's a really good situation to be in. The other thing my eyes are drawn to, though, and this is one that like not a lot of advisors will look at, is the equity rate, right? The 27% equity rate, right? As I think, okay, if we're going to reduce the total number of income, thereby reducing my ability to save more, I would want to make sure that my investments are in order. And so that would be a really good opportunity, whether it's a prospect or a client, to come in and say, hey, we've had this conversation. Yes, yes, yes. But let's optimize even more. And let's look at this liquid cash that you're just kind of saving. You have 4 years of living in it. Can we make use of this? Do we need to invest this to be a little bit more aggressive there? That was just a door that we could open that I think would be really interesting to kind of go beyond the question that I think
And
advisors
believe it
often
or not,
do.
that's the door that brought them to us, because
Oh,
they know
fascinating.
that they have a huge amount of cash sitting on the sidelines. And that's the word she used was, that's killing me. I'm just like,
Yeah.
not sure it's
Yeah.
killing you, but yes, you do have a lot of cash, and they want to know what that next step is to do with that cash. And then the other thing is, so part of my process is, in my first meeting with clients, I'm focusing on the bottom row. Second
Yeah.
meeting, we're focusing on the middle row. Third meeting, then we dial into the top row. So you see that insurance rate there at 0. That's because we haven't gotten to that meeting yet. We haven't yet built out that the risk row to really dial in and talk to the client about.
Yeah. So I guess we can end this here, and I'd be really interested in what's the next steps then with this, right? So they've come in, they came in with this question. You have these high level assumptions, and I think what you've identified as one of those things is maybe we need to dive into spending more. But where do we go from here? What do you now tell this client?
Yeah. So our next steps. So we are still going through the money quotient process with the client. So we're still doing goal discovery, goal setting. Once we've gone through our entire process, we can use that 1-page financial plan, or money quotient has a plan for success. Both of those are very simple ways to document the advisor's recommendations. We're going to clarify the spending. We're going to continue gathering data. Insurance data is our next data gathering step. And then we're going to continue having those deep conversations with the client of, all right, you feel like you want to stop working. What's that about? Yeah. And it allows us, this allows us to say, okay, this line of dialogue is worth pursuing because it's a possibility. Let's explore that possibility.
Yeah, I love this phased onboarding, phased data gathering approach, both from qualitative and quantitative data, right? Like we've started with this, but we're skeptical of certain things, or we maybe need to refine and clarify. And so next step oftentimes is, yes, let's produce a plan. Let's talk to them about some of our recommendations, but also maybe we'll get a little bit more. And I can just imagine myself from the client coming into this, or a prospect really coming into this, and having this level of interaction with an advisor. And then that advisor asking me for more information, like insurance policy documents, investment statements, tax returns. And my willingness to be able to provide those are much higher, right?
The
And so
willingness
I
is
love that approach.
the willingness is so amazing to see. It's much less like pulling teeth than it had been in the past.
I love it. Well, this is a great example. So to reiterate, the question at hand here is, can I afford to stop working or go part-time? And I think, Becky, your answer was sure, but let's learn more.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So, what did you think about that? We'd love to hear your thoughts about how we answered that question. Do you think that you would have answered it differently? Comment below and let us know. Now, if you have a scorecard that you want us to dissect, or a client question you want answered using elements but aren't sure how, send us the client's 1-page plan to cs@getelements.com, and we hope to catch you next time.